Hi, this is Carl the Cobra Frutch, and you're watching Lights Out.
This is Faisal Khan for Lights Out, proudly sponsored by Spartans Law, the #1 law firm company in the UK. And this is podcast 64 of the Lights Out Boxing Podcast. Delighted to be joined by the man, the face of Team Lights Out, as he likes to call himself, Mr. Mohsin Gulsher, a.k.a. Ron. How are you, mate?
Always a pleasure. Very well, thank you.
Good to see you. I've been trying to get a hold of you the last few days. You've not been answering. Guess I've got to send that payment in a bit late as we...
Listen, mate, IFL been knocking, we've been having discussions, you know.
Has anyone seen Ryan Garcia? No, shout out to Jason Gotti though. But before we get started, just a quick few reminders. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell for future Lights Out notifications. To listen to this podcast in any of the audio platforms, links are below in the description. Give us a follow on all of our social media platforms, and if you want the best legal representation in court, check out our sponsor Spartans Law. Again, their website is below in the description. We have got quite a bit to talk about, but as always with any other podcast, we like to start off with our quick fire question, and this is where we would like the viewers to get involved. So our only quick fire question of today is, what area in boxing needs improving the most? Ron, gonna let you sort of kick off here.
I mean, these outcomes we've seen recently with Amir Khan and Conor Benn, you see where I'm going with this. Mm-hmm. These drug test results, they need to come out sooner. Bans need to be put in place rather than it just being pretty much longed out and just like, what the hell's happening? A lot of confusion. Yeah. And it just brings, boxing into a, bad light, kind of thinking, are all these fighters cheating? And, and bans need to be given out. And I think it's just taken far too long. I mean, when did Conor Benn have his 2 positive test results? It was October. And we're still unclear what's happening with that. Amir Khan, his result came out, 14 months after his fight?
Kell Brook, yeah.
After Kell Brook. So why is it taking so long? That's something, an area, maybe, I had a really good interview today about the whole kind of VADA setup and the UK. That needs to be kind of revamped or, kind of be a bit more efficient and, in the time it gets dealt with, really. So that's my key area. Otherwise, people will kind of turn away from boxing thinking they're all cheats, I
think, obviously, we'll touch on what you've just said. I think the reputation of the sport has been tarnished over sort of since October. Now you've had the thing about Amir Khan. You could talk all day long about this, but until a lifetime ban is given, it'll always continue in the sport, but I think a lifetime ban is what is going to make fighters a lot more reluctant to sort of take this path in terms of using performance-enhancing drugs. But it's been going on for a very, very long time. Yeah. What I will say about the Conor Benn situation is that this is a man that says he has proof. October was 6, 7, 8 months ago. Why
is it taking so long for him to
show us your proof? That's all I will say, because this is a young man that is in the prime years of his career. Just show us the proof. But I know it's sad to see what's going on in boxing in terms
from
of
the
drugs.
update. I think it's with UCAD at the moment now.
Well,
so
we understand he's been suspended.
He's been suspended. So look, just draw a line under it and let's move on. And there's been a lot of kind of big profile names, Canelo being one, and there's a lot of grey areas. I mean, how did they get away with it? They had 6. Do you know what I mean? It kind of. Does it depend on your management team and your PR, kind of who can make magic happen and kind of twist it in a certain way and put it down to...
There's an old saying that money talks. So, obviously, guys, we'd like to get your thoughts in the comment section in regards to drugs in boxing. What needs to happen to make sure we get rid of drugs in sports, especially in boxing. My answer to the quick fire question is that I'd like to see these governing bodies, such as the WBC, WBA, whichever one they are, is to get their fighters more active in terms of defending their world titles. I think fighters that hold belts these days are not defending their titles as often as they should be. I think it should be a 3 to 4 month period, or where within that period they should either fight their mandatory or it's a voluntary defence. And if they haven't fought within 3 to 4 months, they should be stripped or they should vacate. Because, you got a lot of world champions these days that are just not fighting enough. Errol Spence, when was the last time he fought? Tyson Fury fought in December.
Yeah. And we're in May, yeah.
We're in May, so... there's other fighters out there that are hungry to get their hands on the world title, and these are good fighters that are currently staying active and fighting on a regular, consistent basis. One of the things about boxing is that we always talk about how we want to see fighters such as the big names, the elite fighters fight more regularly. If you look back to boxing many, many years ago, I'm talking to the 60s, 70s and 80s, they'd fight regular. Was it a heavyweight fought, 22 times in 1 year?
That was Mike. Are you talking about Mike Tyson? I think when he in his breakout year when he had 12 months of how many fights.
What I don't understand is when fighters are breaking out, they're fighting 4 or 5 times a year. When they sort of like get past British level or American level and they're moving on to European, world, whatever level after, their nationality, they're not fighting enough. Why? All right, we get that after you win a British title or an Northern American title, whatever version they have in America, that the fights are going to become more and more difficult and they're going to be more career-defining. But, if you can start your career off fighting 4 or 5 times a year, then surely when you get to the last stages of your career, you need to be fighting at least 3 times a year.
I guess, maybe it's about stepping up in levels. You need greater preparation. So, look, a good example is Adam Azim at the moment. He's at the beginning of his career, and how many fights has he had to date?
And he's headlining
he's keeping himself busy, and his next fight's been announced as well, so we'll talk about that. But then, you're right. When they seem to kind of make it, then it becomes less frequent. We see them, and like Tyson Fury, we're twice a year if we're lucky.
He's been world champion since 2020, and he's defended his belt 3 times. Now I get we were sort of in the pandemic after he won the WBC world title from Deontay Wilder, but the fights were still happening in America, and fights were happening behind closed doors. World champions were fighting. You had Joshua fight in front of 1,000 fans. You had Teofimo Lopez versus Vasyl Lomachenko behind closed doors. Lawrence Okolie won a world title behind closed doors. There were big fights still happening. To be a world champion, the WBC belt, the belt that I respect and love the most in boxing, to have only defended it 3 times, it's not good. It's not a good look on the sport of boxing. So this is where an area of boxing that I think needs improving, is that these governing bodies have got to get their world champions to be more active, fighting regularly. If not, vacate or strip them of the title. Simple as.
Saying that, look, but you can have an instance, something like Joe Cordina. He was stripped of his title because he didn't defend it. Do you think that was the right decision? Now, I don't think it was the right decision. On the back of what you've just said,
right?
There.
Well, if there's an injury to a fighter and there's proof that he's injured from a doctor's examination, then 100% I believe that fighter should be given time to recover and defend his title.
And what's the on this point? How long?
Well, however long it takes to recover. He's a world champion.
No, I get that, but then you're kind of contradicting yourself, because it's obviously in the sense that it's holding up a belt which could be challenged by
the guy is injured.
I'm just kind of being devil's advocate here.
All right, fine. Yeah. So maybe the best answer to that is he vacates, but he straight away becomes the number 1 mandatory to fight for the title. Whenever
it becomes, that's what happened with him. Yeah, that's.
And I'm pretty sure a fighter like Cordina would have defended that belt at least twice by now. But he's a 2-time world champion. We're going to talk about it.
Look, taking nothing away from him, it was a horrific hand injury. If you saw it,
exactly. And this is Well, look, it's a good point you made, but I just think if you're a world champion and you've suffered an injury which is going to keep you out of the ring, I feel as if the fighter should hold on to the belt. And if they do get stripped, which he did, or vacated, then he should be given a mandatory slot to fight for that belt again. That's the way I see it. But we'll move on. And again, guys, we'd love to get your thoughts in the comment section of what areas in boxing that needs improving on the most. Let's rewind back to last Saturday at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. The fight of the year was dubbed Gervonta Tank Davis beating Ryan Garcia via 7th round knockout. Ron, give us a review. What did you make of the fight?
It was what I expected.
But before you go any further, massive shout out to them for getting it on. That's exactly what we wanted to see. It is what we wanted to see. 2
elite fighters, 2 big names in their prime. So what more could you want? We saw the stars turning up at the ringside. It was who's who of boxing. Mike Tyson was there. We had a boxing kind of fighters there watching that fight as well. Who else was there?
Floyd Mayweather was there.
Of course, Floyd's
You
going
had
to be
a lot of NBA basketball stars there. You had a lot of people turn up for that
So
fight.
massive interest worldwide. I mean, look, we're across the pond, and we were still very excited about this, and we spoke about it. The fight itself, it started how I thought it was going to start. I thought, I think Garcia was trying to use his reach, to his advantage, because obviously with Gervonta Davis being the smaller man with a shorter reach, I think this is the tallest opponent he's been in with, second tallest I think it is, something like that. So he was giving a lot away in terms of reach. What I noticed about Gervonta Davis in the early, he wasn't doing much. He was kind of keeping that distance, and his punch output was very little. Mm-hmm. But when he did throw, he was kind of landing. That's something I noticed, and he was very clever. But that's typical of a tank performance, isn't it? In the early round, where he'll kind of just get you the both. I mean, he is a counter puncher, so both of them are counter punchers. So the first round, I gave that to Garcia. Well, what do you think, what'd you make of that round? It wasn't much in it, but I think they were both kind of feeling each other out. But the second round, boom.
Yeah.
What did you make of that knockdown? Did you expect it to happen so early in the fight with how the first round went?
I think I said in the last podcast I don't expect any knockdowns. I see two good boxing fighters giving us a 12-round war, and it'll come down to whoever wants it the most. But what I saw was a lot of hype in terms of the left hook Ryan Garcia possesses, and it's the left hook that's what let him down. Because if you watch the fight back, he tries catching Gervonta Davis with that left hook, and he leaves himself way too open and bang.
Yeah, his chin was up in the air. He wasn't protecting himself. With his hands were down.
Yeah, and I think once Garcia realised that this guy's got my number, it was going to go one way. Because what I saw in that fight, not just the second round, but from rounds 1 to 7, I saw an elite fighter who's already fought at that level and a fighter who's not at that level. I'm not going to knock Ryan Garcia. I think he's an exceptional talent. I think he's definitely the future of the sport. But there was a golfing class on Saturday night, in my opinion.
Yeah.
This guy was throwing a barrage of punches. He was so open. Yeah. And he never recovered from that knockdown. What I will say is, and controversial whether you think it is or not, Ryan Garcia, in my opinion, is another Amir Khan.
Wow.
Is another Amir Khan.
But let's not use that as knocking him, because
if he's another Amir Khan, then we are in for an amazing 10 years with Ryan Garcia, because you look back at Khan's fights against the likes of the Maidanas, those first 6 rounds against Canelo. They were entertaining fights. Amir Khan was always in entertaining
He's always
fights.
been in entertaining
so
fights.
I'm not knocking him as a boxer. I think he's a very good fighter. I just think he's another Amir Khan.
I see the kind of parallels there with the fast hand speed.
The fast hand speed. But the hand speed is there, but the chin is also there as well. And he loses focus way too easily.
Like Amir Khan as well, yeah.
I thought he was interacting with the referee way too much. There's a lot of complaining going on during the fight, which I don't want to see when especially two world-class fighters are fighting.
I thought that was what I made that kind of criticism of Gervonta Davis, because he was trying to smother his kind of work that he was trying to do, kind of hold on and not let him get his shots off. And every time Garcia wanted to let his hands go, he'd kind of step in. I was thinking, is Tank kind of afraid to kind of engage here? But what he was trying to do is
Tank had his number.
He was waiting for that opportunity. His punches were more accurate.
And then you go obviously part to the 7th round and the body shot that just. I was watching the fight. I said to my brother when he went down with the body shot, he goes, he's not getting up because there's no way.
Did you see that?
I did see
from the punch itself.
I could hear it. You could hear it. You watch the replays. You could hear it. It is a clean shot to sort of like. The liver rib cage area.
He's had a lot of criticism on the back of that. I mean,
but there's no need to criticize him. That's a brilliant punch, landed to perfection. He's caught him in the worst area possible.
Did you hear what?
I heard
there's two people.
Yeah.
I mean, Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz was very openly very critical about him. The legend himself, Julio Cesar Chavez, said, I've lost respect for him. He should have got up. And
I think that's harsh. I think it's very harsh.
It's just the manner it happened. It was a delayed reaction. He didn't go down straight away, and he just the fight continued, you could see he's grimacing in his face that, it was a horrible...
It was a delayed reaction. He felt the wrath of the punch a few seconds later. And you could tell the guy was hurt, man. Look, this is the biggest fight of his career. He's been calling for these fights for many, many years. One thing I don't doubt about this kid is the fact he wants to be in the biggest and best fights. You know, he did not need to take that fight at all. It's a very risky fight for both fighters. Right? Tank's a freeweight world champion, undefeated. You know, Ryan Garcia could have easily taken a warm-up fight or an interim fight, and he could have avoided that fight, but he didn't. So I don't agree with Chavez's comments. I don't agree with Andy Ruiz's comments. I think it was a punch way too good. But I do think as that fight went on, Garcia realised what he was up against, and he was up against an elite fighter. And the question's been asked all week, is Tank the face of boxing? No, he's not the face of boxing. Absolutely not. The face of boxing right now is Canelo Alvarez. You know, that guy for me is the face of boxing. If you want to talk about who is the number one man in boxing right now, put Inoue in that bracket. You know, put Terence Crawford in that bracket. Put these fighters. Put Beterbiev in that bracket. Put Bivol in that bracket. These guys are fighting regularly. They've been in the 50-50 fights, and I'm not knocking Tank, but now this is where these big moments are going to come now with Tank. You know, this is a defining time of his career now. What do you do next with Tank? No, nobody wants to see him fight a top-ranked 15 opponent. Nobody wants to see him take a warm-up fight. Get him in with Shakur Stevenson next. I don't think he needs to take the win of Haney versus Lomachenko next. You put him in with Shakur Stevenson, and the winner of that fight moves on to fight the winner of Haney versus Lomachenko.
You don't want Shakur to have another fight?
He's
new to the way. He's moving up.
I want these fights. I want these guys to lead the way in boxing. All right. Yeah. Because we've said for many, many months that women's boxing is showing up men's boxing. Hopefully now this is the blueprint for men's boxing to sort of buck their ideas up and to give us these big and thrilling fights. And I do want to see him fight Shakur Stevenson next. I think that's the fight to be made next.
That's a big call. I can see that there's value in that.
And I mean, a lot of people, there's no doubting Tank Davis's talent. He is a phenomenal fighter. And, you know, all week they spoke about the left hook of Ryan Garcia. That was his downfall because I've seen the first knockdown over and over again. And I just think until this kid learns a few basics, I don't think he's going to get to that level. But when I say he's another Amir Khan, I don't mean he's going to...
In disrespect. You mean it in a positive way.
I see a lot of Amir Khan in him. I see the hand speed. You know, I see the entertainment. I see the thrilling side of him. Yeah. This kid's going to be in great fights.
Yeah.
And he wants to go up to 140 pounds as well.
You're fearing that he might be on the receiving end of some brutal...
he will.
Unless he tightens up on those defences. There was a lot of gaps that, you know... Obviously.
I'm a bit disappointed because I've always respected Joe Goosen as a trainer, and I thought Joe Goosen would have looked at this fight and thought, well, the Tank possesses a lot of power. You know, we don't need to go gung-ho the first few rounds. Okay, let's try and get into a comfortable lead or a lead itself. I did say whoever wins the first few rounds will run away with the fight, but I don't think there was no need to sort of try and go for the kill straight away because you seen it in the second round before the first knockdown. Garcia was looking to...
Tank just saw these opportunities and he pounced.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was keeping that distance from him, that wide stance that he takes. I was thinking, is Tank going to actually throw anything? You know, he looked a bit gun-shy, but... Then he picked his moments, you know. He swiveled around to the left, to the right. To kind of find these gaps, as we saw the body blow there.
And the beauty of this is that he's going to now. Ryan Garcia said he's going to go up in weight. I mean, fights with potentially the likes of Regis Prograis, great fight. You know, maybe even Josh Taylor. You know, Teofimo Lopez.
So he's not going to stick out.
No, and he shouldn't. I mean, you could just looking at him in the way, and he looked as if. It got drained. To him a bit. He looked a bit drained, and I think now is the right time to go up in weight. I think Tank Davis has probably got another 1 or 2 fights left at this weight, but I expect Devin Haney to go up in weight as well after his fight with Lomachenko.
When is that happening?
End of May, I believe.
Okay.
But regardless, I do think that these crop of lightweight fighters, their future within the next sort of year to 18 months is going to belong at super lightweight. And if you've got some great fights there to be made, as I mentioned, Josh Taylor, you've got Ramirez, you've got Teofimo Lopez, Regis Prograis, Jack Catterall, you've got some really big names in there, Barboza Jr. as well. So there's no shaming for the loser.
You've got Cruz as well. You're missing out Isaac Cruz as well.
And there's some very. I think these two will fight again one day. I can see a rematch.
Let's rerun that. I had that, yeah.
I think they will fight again.
I think Ryan needs to kind of go back.
I don't want to see him in a warm-up fight. I want to see him stay in the deep end.
I think that he's probably learned a lot from that fight. Yeah. He's taken a lot away from that fight that he can obviously will hopefully stand him in good
And
stead for the future fights.
With a world-class trainer like Joe Goosen, I do hope they work on a few things because these next sort of 2 years are huge for Ryan Garcia. But I'm telling you now, Ron, I don't have nothing. I'm not going to criticize him. I just think the guy's an exciting fighter, and there are going to be some exciting nights for Ryan Garcia, but there's going to be some huge nights as well for Gervonta Tank Davis, and I love the Tank Davis versus Shakur Stevenson fight. That is the one fight. If I could choose a fight now to happen this year, forget Fury versus Usyk, forget Spence versus Crawford. I want to see Tank Davis versus Shakur Stevenson.
You're a big Shakur fan,
I'm a huge Shakur Stevenson fan, but I'm also a huge guy listener.
Okay, how does that go? Shakur versus...
I think Shakur Stevenson beats him.
Wow, that's a big
because I watch Shakur Stevenson, and you know when you watch a fight and you look at me, you think, "Right, I can watch this guy all day long." But again, let's just fingers crossed these fights happen, and I believe they are going to happen. Moving on, we'll talk about a fight that got announced: Liam Smith versus Chris Eubank Jr. 17th of June in Manchester at the AO Arena. Same location, but is it going to be the same outcome? Ron, repeat or revenge? But before you give me your prediction, thoughts on the fight, because we all thought we were going to get Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. That's not happened. Liam Smith was looking at the likes of the Golovkins and the other names at 160 pounds. But does the rematch for these two make sense right now?
I think that's the only fight for him at the moment. You know, if the Eubank
for who? Smith or Eubank?
For Eubank, really.
Okay.
If the Conor Benn fight wasn't happening, then that's the next money fight for him. You know, he needs to kind of right the wrongs. You know, because he was, I've heard him speak in the press conference, and he said. First of all, he said he was over complacent. Secondly, he said it shouldn't have been stopped. I mean,
he stood up doing the chicken dance, but it shouldn't have been stopped. Okay, fair enough.
I had an entertaining exchange between the two when he said, when Liam Smith said, your trainer was on the side of the ring, about to throw the towel in Roy Jones Jr. And he goes, I don't know, but I will tell Roy Jones Jr. not to bring any towel, not to even...
going to wipe his sweat off. His
well, look, because...
do what grandmas do, get a tissue, lick it and wipe it off. Has anyone seen Chris Eubank Jr.? I'm sorry, I can't help it.
I know, clearly. So...
I should have said that after he lost the first fight, because the chances he might win the second fight. But no, I agree with you. I think it was the best possible fight to make. All I would have liked to have seen.
What other fights can he make?
I would have liked. I would have seen someone tackle the Charlo brothers now, and I would have liked Liam Smith to go after the one that's.
Liam Smith was tied in. He was kind of waiting on.
Yeah, but he's won his last 3 fights.
No. It's not that. He was tied into this rematch.
Yeah, but he had Eubank Jr. looking at the fight with Conor Benn.
Then that fell, but that contract was still in place.
If I was Liam Smith, I would have fucked him.
Does that make sense? It was in place.
It does, but then
unless he fought someone else, then he was free to go on.
Yeah, but if I'm Liam Smith, I would have been like, well, hold on a second, you just negotiate with Conor Benn. I knocked you out a few months ago. No, I don't need you.
Yeah, but that was the contract they were in.
Okay,
and look, he still makes good money. I'm sure he will make up from the.
Well, he's the A side, so I should doubt.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't doubt that he does make good money.
So predictions. I think I'm going to go for Liam Smith this time.
Liam Smith's going to beat my points.
Yeah.
I think Liam Smith. In boxing, when a fighter's got your number, I just think this guy's got his number.
Yeah. How do you think? I mean, it was quite interesting that Eubank said that he felt he won the first 3 rounds. He was outboxing him, out-jabbing him. What was your assessment?
Okay, well, he won the first 3 rounds, but he didn't win the fight, though, did he?
No, but just saying something...
I had round 1... From what I can remember about the fight, I had round 1 to Liam Smith. I had round 2 to Eubank Jr. and round 3
to Eubank.
So round 2 was close.
Yeah.
Round 3 clearly to Eubank Jr. I was thinking to myself, okay, it looks as if he's getting to work now. But obviously we know what went down in round 4. But it doesn't matter how many rounds he won in the last fight.
Just out of interest, yeah. And this is, Liam Smith made a really good point. He's like, look, he's not the greatest boxer.
No, but he's not though, is he?
Yeah, he's got a great engine and he's got a great chin. But his chin has been exposed now. Now, that's something that he would fall back on in previous fights. If you ask any of Eubank Jr.'s opponents, like Groves and who else has he lost to? Saunders. Maybe not Saunders, but they all have said that this guy has got a granite chin. But now that's been exposed. How does he cope with that? This is the first time he's been dropped professionally.
Yeah, and he also mentioned, sorry to cut you short there, Ron, he also mentioned in the press conference, this was new to me, I got up quick too straight away.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't used to this thing happening to me in boxing before. I've never been knocked out before. And he also spoke about how, he goes, unlike Billy Joe Saunders, I didn't quit on my stool in the corner. I stood up. I even after the referee waved it off, I come and approached you to show you I'm still here. I'm still game. But I don't care what he thinks about his corner throwing in the towel. They made the right decision. The guy was
absolutely.
He
was in no position to continue. But look, he's a fighter, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know,
Well, he's a Eubank.
He's a Eubank. You know, there are tough SOGs. Yeah. But let's. We're talking a lot about Eubank. I mean, what do you think? Liam Smith, does he do anything different in this fight? Does he keep it the same?
Because Liam Smith knows he can hurt him, and Liam Smith knows he's got the better of him in terms of boxing ability. So Liam Smith and Joe McNally don't change anything because you've beaten him before. So don't.
There's that psychological edge on him now.
There's the old saying: if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So there's no need to change anything. I expect Eubank Jr. to becoming a lot more fired up.
He just didn't seem right to me, you know, in that lead up.
But Eubank Jr., right, going into this fight, in the back of his mind, he knows this guy's capable of hurting me. So will that make him, I don't know, maybe punch reluctant?
A bit more reluctant. Yeah. I mean, Liam Smith made that point that he didn't want to exchange. You know, he didn't want to. He was afraid. He gave him that impression that Eubank was afraid to get hit.
Yeah.
So did you hear that in that press conference? I mean, so I don't know what we could take of that.
I kind of look back to when Joshua beat Ruiz in the second fight, and I noticed in that fight, Joshua didn't want to scrap with him either, because Joshua kind of knew in the back of his mind, this kid can hurt me. And the thing about rematches is that if the first one ends the way it did with Smith and Eubank Jr., fighters go into the rematch thinking, you know, this guy can hurt me because he's done it in the past. So I think Eubank Jr., I expect him to be a lot more tight in terms of the defense. But I just can't see how Eubank Jr., forget beat him, knocks him out, because Liam Smith has also got a great engine, and Liam Smith's the type of fighter that comes alive in the later rounds as well. So what's the game plan for Roy Jones Jr. and Eubank Jr.? What do they do?
Do we first of all know if Roy Jones is going to be involved?
Well, he said that he's told Roy Jones Jr. not to bring a towel to the corner this time.
I don't know, because I wouldn't be surprised
the guy's
if Ronnie...
years old. How many more times is he going to keep on chopping and changing? No. Ronnie Davis, he doesn't listen to. His old man, unfortunately, has got issues, health issues.
Mental health issues,
right? Okay.
I hope so. I mean, I like...
You're not going to get better than Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah.
So where does he go if Roy Jones Jr. is not in his corner? Who does he bring in? This is literally the last chance saloon. If he loses this fight, Ron,
where does he go from there?
It doesn't go no. I'll tell you where he goes. It goes as a pundit. He becomes a pundit on
I think that Conor Ben fight is still there.
Oh no!
Yes, of course. But if he's retired, then I think that fight's still there. I mean, regardless of what you say,
I'm going to disagree with you.
There's too much needle there.
No, it's not. But I don't care about the needle, because, quite frankly, if this guy loses to Liam Smith again, right? I think he should. I think I'm going to do a Nassim Hamid. I think he should walk away from boxing. I think he should retire. Wow. That's what. Yeah,
I disagree. I think that fight is still there.
So it becomes a cash cow, basically.
Why not?
All right. Well, moving on then, because on the same night we've got an undisputed super middleweight championship fight to look forward to in the women's section of boxing. Franch Crews-Dezurn versus Savannah Marshall, and a good fight to look forward to. I remember watching Crews-Dezurn's last fight. I believe it was on the Taylor Serrano undercard, and I was thinking to myself, fucking hell, this woman can fight. And obviously Savannah Marshall's first fight since that undisputed defeat to Claressa Shields. So hats off to Savannah Marshall for taking a fight of this magnitude. You heard what Peter Fury said. We've been in boxing now since she's 10, 11 years old. We don't need an 8-rounder. We want the biggest and the best fights possible. And it doesn't get any bigger than an undisputed fight, especially the fact that she's going up in weight as well, up to 168 pounds. But she's fighting a woman whose only defeat has come against Claressa Shields. And I mean, I was watching the press conference, and I thought Claressa Shields had swagger. This girl's got swagger as well. There's something about these American females that you really take a liking to because of the way they talk in press conferences, and they're so confident as well. But another good fight for Savannah Marshall. We spoke about Eubank Jr. perhaps being one defeat away from maybe calling it a day, but Savannah Marshall, win, lose, or draw, takes a lot of credit away, given the fact that she's taken another huge fight after coming off her first career loss. Yeah,
she's not taken a step. She said that there's no point in me taking an 8-rounder or just a warm-up fight. What am I doing here? I'm in the prime of my career. Yeah, I mean, good to see Savannah Marshall's kind of step back into another big fight. against another kind of confident American who's
Yeah.
not just here to take a payday. She's here to kind of make a statement. Bloody hell, how many belts does she have? It's like...
More belts than Primark.
Yeah.
Or next.
Fucking hell.
But I obviously was watching the press conference and I rewatched the fight last night between Marshall and Shields, and I felt what let Savannah Marshall down that night was a slow start. So I think I'm hoping her and Peter Fury look for a quick start this time round, because as I said, this Franchon Crews-Dezurn can punch.
I hope Savannah Marshall uses that attribute, which she wasn't able to kind of use against Clarissa Shields. She's tall and she's a powerful woman. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, she's got a good knockout ratio compared to other women boxers. So I hope we see a knockout. Either way.
I don't think there'd be a knockout, but I did say, because when I watched Crews-Dezurn's last fight, which was on the Taylor Serrano undercard, I was watching it, and the woman she fought, I can't remember her name, right? She absolutely battered her. And I was thinking to myself, do you know what? This is an undisputed champion. I'd love to see her get her over in the UK. And I remember after Savannah Marshall lost to Clarissa Shields, she was ringside, Crews-Dezurn, and she was saying, I'll fight you next. And I was thinking, yeah, that's the perfect fight to make next. So it's good to see that. Look what America's got, man. They've got the Serrano sisters, they've got Clarissa Shields, and they've also got Franchon Crews-Dezurn. I'm not being funny or anything, but women's boxing in America is not big at all.
It's not. They don't get enough credit, these women.
They need to start bringing these females over a lot more.
Yeah, that's why Clarissa Shields has done... How many trips has she done to the UK and fought here now?
See, when I went for Eubank Jr. versus Williams fight week, she fought on the undercard, and I was there for the Marshall fight week as well, Savannah Marshall fight week between Clarissa Shields. And the UK fans took to her. They're a massive fan of her, because she's got swagger about her.
She's a female Mayweather.
Exactly. Yeah. And this Franchon Crews-Dezurn, all right, is not as good as her because she's already been beaten by Clarissa Shields, but she's got the confidence, she's got the swagger, she's got her own sort of look. And, you just take to these figures in boxing.
From what I heard about her as well, she does a lot outside the ring as well.
She's into her music as well. She's known as the diva as well.
Yeah.
So
it's a really, show.
You got to give credit to Sky Sports and Boxer. I've also heard a rumour that the super middleweight British title is on the line as well between Mark Heffron and Zach Shelley. So look at that. You've got Smith versus Eubank Jr., the rematch, Crews-Dezurn, Savannah Marshall, and then you've got a potential British title fight. So it's shaping up to be a good card and a good night of boxing.
I wish Zach Shelley all the best. You've interviewed him a few times.
I've interviewed Mark Heffron as well. So it's not done yet, but we're hoping.
But all credit to him. I hope that journey continues.
It's a great fight. It's a fight to look forward to. But back on the undisputed super middleweight championship fight, we spoke about how Savannah Marshall goes up in weight. Would you have liked to have seen her take a warm-up fight before, sort of get used to the weight, or do you think she's doing the right thing?
I think she's in the prime now. Like you said, women boxing, what makes it special is the best fighting the best.
Absolutely.
Start off in their careers, they'll have these kind of warm-up fights, journey women, whatever you call them. I'm glad that she is fighting back in a big fight again. And could we see another big fight on the back of this? If she wins that, could we see the rematch versus Clarissa Shields? So, no, I think this is what they've done is right. Nothing wrong with kind of losing against a Clarissa Shields. That's one of the best women fighters out there. But that's a problem with women boxing, that there's not the quantity of quality fighters out there.
Yeah.
To make other potential good fights. So there's a big division, there's a class division kind of thing. That's my kind of problem with women's boxing at the moment. But with time, that it will get better.
Fingers crossed. Well, I think women's boxing has been a credit to the sport over sort of the last 18
years. It's growing, and
what we had last year. Taylor Serrano, the Shields.
It's going to whole new lengths, and we're getting the fight with Taylor and
Cameron as well.
Yeah, that's
the one area that obviously this kind of goes back to the quick fire question is we need to start seeing 12 rounds instead of 10 rounds.
What about 3-minute rounds?
3-minute rounds, yeah, exactly. Make it equal now. As I said, when these big women fights happen, they tend to be...
It finishes really quick. Yeah. You're just getting into it, and then it's finished.
I remember watching, obviously, Taylor Serrano last year. It was the edge of your seat type of stuff, wasn't it? But what's your prediction for this fight, Ron? I'm gonna
go for our gal. I'm
gonna go for Savannah Marshall. I think she wins on points, but she is in with a big puncher.
Does she win all those belts?
I hope she does.
Because there's a lot of belts there, man.
Have we ever had a British undisputed female world champion? No.
Depends on which weight they're fighting
Actually,
at.
no,
Maybe
we've had obviously Katie Taylor, but
Yeah.
it'd be good to have another one.
Absolutely.
Well, look, it's a good best of luck to Savannah Marshall, but I am looking forward to getting the camera in front of Franchon Crews-Dezurn, and I'm looking forward to speaking to her. I'm also looking forward to seeing how she gets on. We're talking a bit about last Saturday night's action because Joe Cordina has become a two-time world champion after beating Shavkat Rakhimov in what was a phenomenal fight.
Fight of the year contender.
It's up there.
Yeah.
I'm just going to come out and say I think Wales and the UK have got a star in their hand, man. I think there's potentially something to work with this kid. He's a two-time world champion. He's yet to be defeated. He's hard as nails. He's had a horrific injury. You know, he had his belt wrongfully taken off of him, and he's come back, and he's now a two-time world champion. The fight was phenomenal. And again, it's these smaller weights that you're seeing great fights at, you know, and there's so many good fights there to look forward to now with Joe Cordina. I wouldn't mind seeing a second fight between these two guys because I thought Shavkat Rakhimov is a fucking tough.
He's a machine, you know, and I've watched his last fight against Alpha Barrett. I was really impressed with him then, where he came back when he was losing on points, and he had been dropped early in the fight as well. So he's like the Terminator. He just keeps on coming. He's a come forward kind of fighter and throws volumes of punches. I thought it was a very close fight.
Yeah.
You know, I really liked the work that Rakhimov was doing. You said you would like to see that rewinded back.
Yep.
From what I'm hearing, that's not going to happen.
That's a shame.
You know,
because
that's a
Rakhimov
massive shame.
deserves a rematch.
He was a champion. He lost his, you know, it was the closest.
Absolutely.
One of the scorecards was completely off. I thought, just completely disagreed with that.
Yeah, Tony Sims kind of had a bit of a kicked up a fuss about it.
116, 111 was it? Or
ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it was a little bit. Oof, okay, but on the whole, I think he'll come back for Rakhimov. So don't, you know, he'll be.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What do you see next for Cordina?
I mean, there should be a rematch, but I think you'll want to unify next. But what I want to see is, I mean, boxing aside, I want to see this kid built into what he potentially could become. You know, forget the UK. When was the last time we had a big face come out of Wales apart from Joe Calzaghe in terms of the boxing? You had Lee Selby. Liam Williams quite hasn't got to the level that he thought he would. So I think there's some, you know, there's something to work with. You saw how buzzing the arena was on Saturday night. Eddie Hearns mentioned about a potential unification bout.
I'm hearing that,
in the Cardiff City Stadium. But if they're gonna build Joe Cordina personally, I think that there's potentially a star in the making with Joe Cordina. I think the guy's a phenomenal talent. I think Tony Sims in his corners work wonders for him. And I'd like to see Eddie Hearns sort of start looking at the future now after Joshua and Canelo, because I want to see who his next star is in this sport. All right, okay, Sonny Edwards is there. He's got a good couple of young fighters coming through, but I really want to see what Eddie Hearns' plan is for fight in 5 years' time. Who is potentially going to be the face of Matchroom and DAZN? Could that be Joe Cordina? If you build him right, potentially yes.
Were you 31?
Yeah.
So this is strike while the iron's hot.
Yes, exactly.
So on the back of that performance, unification is definitely the answer.
100%.
Yeah. But he kind of rubbished. I mean, he was interviewed afterwards and he was asked about the Zelfa Barrett fight, but I don't think he fancies that. Look, Zelfa needs to win another, and against another credible opponent. Then we can talk. But
I know he's 31, right? But the fact that he's a star in Wales as well.
Yep.
And if you know your sports, football and boxing, the Welsh fans, they come in numbers. You know, you've seen them at the Euros and at the World Cup, and Liam Williams' fan base as well. Lee Selby's fan. I'm just saying, right? This guy brings numbers with him. There is something about this kid. How long he stays at super featherweight, not too sure. Would he fancy going up to lightweight? I mean, if he does,
there's a lot of good company there.
There's a great company waiting for him, But yeah. I do think there's something about Joe Cordina that has the potential to become a huge star. Yes, he's 31 years old. Okay, right. So maybe time isn't on his hands, but at the same time, there's something there to work with. And you saw that on Saturday night. You saw the Welsh fans get right behind this guy. And listen, unification fight next. Love to see it. What I don't want to see is, I don't want to see this become another Josh Warrington. So example is Josh Warrington, 2-time world champion, never got a unification fight. It was always mandatory defences and voluntary defences. After beating the likes of the Carl Framptons and the Kid Galahads and the Lee Selbys, people wanted to see him fight Shakur Stevenson. these fights never happened.
He never got that fight, did he?
Do you know what I mean? This is obviously a very long time ago because Shakur Stevenson's gone from featherweight to...
Do you think? Okay, just that. I'm glad that you brought that up. Do you think there's a reason behind that? Why he didn't get that big money fight?
Because I don't think there was... And this is no disrespect to Josh Warrington. I just don't think the fighters at the time who had the belts in that division thought there was enough to be made in terms of money. You know, Eddie Hearn, right, whenever he speaks about Josh Warrington, has always said him and his fans deserve an away day in America, Las Vegas and New York. But his first world title victory was in 2018. He's not unified the division yet. He's a 2-time world champion. He's lost a few fights. And do you put that down to bad promoting, bad matchmaking, potentially? So I think now that Joe Cordina's at 31 years of age, you've got to sort of get him these unification fights. So which is why I understand why he doesn't want to entertain a Zelfa Barrett fight. So take him over to America or take him to the Cardiff City Stadium, but let's get him unifying. Or let's perhaps maybe even, as we said, the company at lightweight is great as well. So there's a lot of things to be worked with there. We're almost coming to a bit of a heavyweight brawl in Poland between.
I'm glad you brought this one up. I'm looking forward to this.
This is one fight I never expected these two to, sort of bump into each other anytime soon. Obviously, Dillian Whyte was out in Poland supporting his fighter Alen Babic, and he bumped into Martin Bakole, who won. His fight.
Can we talk about that fight first before you talk about the rumble outside, man? Come on. What was it? 2 minutes and 21 seconds of it.
We'll flip the script a bit here. Yes. Lukasz Rozanskicreciew is now the WBC Bridgerweight champion of the world, beating Alen Babic in the schoolyard fight that I've labelled it.
It was a pub brawl, but it was
kind of like that time me and you had a fight one night on a night out, and I won. I'm joking, but it wasn't a boxing match.
It was just who landed first kind of thing,
yes.
and I think he stung him very early in that round, and he never recovered. And referee stopped it. Do you think it was the right stoppage?
Yeah, it was. Babic never recovered from the first round.
So. And this is a world champion that we've got in Bridgerweight. So there's a lot of criticism here is that who are the other Bridgerweights?
Oscar Rivas is one.
Oscar Rivas is retired now.
Has he?
Yeah, he's retired.
Well, good luck in retirement, Oscar Rivas. Did you notice the crowd? They were just all stood up and they were like, it was like there was no control from security. They were just, it was... like, for example, when you got a fight at school and you got 15, 30, 40 students just surrounding it. It was like that, except they were obviously outside the ring. And it was just barbaric. I was watching us thinking, get some control over these guys before they end up jumping in the ring. That's how.
Well, listen, their man won.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's in Poland, and this is their hero. 37 years of age. He doesn't. If you looked at him, you wouldn't say he's an athlete of any kind.
Well, Robert Lewandowski's not done him any favours in previous major footballing tournaments, so they've got something to scream about.
But if you looked at, fair play to him, the guy can pack a punch. He comes in swinging. I mean, look, Babic has got the better boxing record. He's fought more rounds. This guy, man, he just tries to clear you in the first round.
I'm gonna be brutally honest with you here, right? Okay, I hope these two don't go anywhere near any of the big boys up in heavyweight or whatever their plan is.
I'm hearing that they might go to cruiserweight. I think that's.
Well, I hope they don't go anywhere near the cruiserweights because
that would be interesting.
The thing about this Bridgerweight division is it's just going to be barbaric brawls. It's not going to be your classical boxing.
You know what? I'm glad. Let's have a bit of a mix-up. Let's have a bit of a change. Let's just see some brutal.
So can we not call this the Bridgerweight division? Can we also call this like the hardcore division? Like back in the day, WWE you had fighters like Mankind and.
It just seems like that, doesn't it?
Up in the streets fighting. That's what I think we should call it. Scrap the Bridgerweight division. Call it the hardcore division of boxing. What do you think?
Division.
Yeah.
It just seemed brutal. Just like go, and they were just like, let me just land my first left hook on him and try to put him to sleep. But look, regardless, he's a world champion, so let's give him Alen the Savage Babic. So I wonder where he goes beyond that. Is there another rematch down the line?
No idea, but nonetheless, listen, fair play to Rozanski. He's a world champion. Him and his Polish fans have got something to look back on when he does call it a day from boxing. But I'm not calling it the Bridgerweight division. I'm calling it the hardcore division. Simple Fair as. But as we were saying before, the Babic and Rozanski review, Dillian Whyte and Martin Bakole also nearly come to blows in the arena.
They exchanged words, didn't they? Yeah.
Is this a fight you want to see?
Yes.
Why?
Bakole needs a name on his list now.
But
he's the problem that you don't want to have. I mean,
does Bakole deserve a fight against someone like a Dillian Whyte right now, or should Dillian Whyte be targeting one of the bigger names in the division? That's no disrespect to Bakole.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a problem that you want to have. I mean, like, I was hearing a lot of people, kind of the analysts talking about him, and they said, look, if he goes in with the Daniel Dubois, you know, he'll apparently there's rumors that
he's dropped Dubois.
He's dropped Dubois. He's made I don't know. He's something.
He's dropped Usyk in sparring.
Dropped Usyk in sparring. You know, and he's kind of stopped Dubois. So there's some hype there about this guy, and you know, he's a big unit as well. I want to see what this hype's all about. You know, okay. I mean, we can't really judge him on that last fight. The guy, the Hulk, that he was fighting against. So he has been with like the people like sort of Michael
more like
Hunter.
A Brussels sprout, more like.
Have you watched that fight against Michael Hunter?
Yes,
so that he got stopped because of his shoulder injury.
Beat Tony Yoka as well.
Beat Tony Yoka. So this guy has got some power in him. He's brute force there.
But Dillian Whyte is a money prize fighter now. You know, he does tend to make money in terms of his fights.
It's high risk and low reward there.
Exactly.
That's the problem with that fight.
And when you talk about fighters that are one defeat away from having to say, do you know what, I think it's best to call it a day. Dillian Whyte is one of those fighters. I don't want to disrespect the man because, you know, Dillian Whyte's given a lot to British boxing. You know, he's taken the best fights possible. He's kept us entertained for many years. However, as you said, high risk, low reward.
Listen, man, if Dillian Whyte doesn't want that heat, then he's also called out Deontay Wilder as well, this guy. So.
Yeah, but that's just what...
You know what?
Does he fight anybody?
He'll fight anybody.
Okay,
right. Listen, all right, be a matchmaker for Bakole. Who'd you match him with? You know, worldwide boxing.
Hughie Fury.
I like that.
Hughie Fury. Because Hughie Fury needs to fight again, and he needs to fight again soon.
Oof. Hughie Fury's he's been very unfortunate with injuries and setbacks. And
Hughie Fury or Joseph Parker?
I like those fights.
And that's who I'd put Bakole in with next.
Someone who could test him, you know, in terms of skills.
The fight I want to see Dillian Whyte in next is with the winner of a potential rematch between Joe Joyce and Jay Lee Zhang. That's who I'd want to see Dillian Whyte fight next.
I think let's just say they're both tied up. You know, Joyce accepts that rematch.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if Dubois not fighting Usyk, which I thought...
Dillian Whyte, great fight.
There you go.
But what did you make of the war of words, though?
I think it's just
Mike Bakole trying to sort of...
Of course it is. He's trying to make a name for himself. He's trying to get himself out there.
Seize the opportunity.
Yeah, you see him, you know, let's try it. You know, you could be polite and courteous.
Dillian Whyte's had some fucking ferocious moments in boxing. I mean, it's just like, you know, you look back at the rivalry with Chisora, and you know,
he's a bit of a clobber lang for me, man. I like him, man.
Trouble follow him everywhere he goes, especially even outside of the ring.
Yeah.
You know, like, Dillian Whyte's like, come upstairs, and he's like, fuck you, you motherfucker, excuse my language. It's just like, has everyone got a problem with Dillian Whyte, or is Dillian Whyte a problem?
Bit of both, really. You know what I mean? The first time I saw of Dillian Whyte was against AJ. You know, that bad blood followed, you know, was from their amateur days, and it kind of spilled into their kind of thingy.
It even
do you remember
ended the round after the second round?
That as well. I mean, prior to that, I mean, look at the gloves are off. What happened there? You know, he was like,
which one? The one with Chisora or the one with Joshua?
No, I'm talking about the Joshua one where he said we can go outside and.
If Johnny Nelson left the room and me and you were to stand here, we'd have it. I'd win. And he also goes, "Your heart's going to fail you." And Joshua's like, "Yeah, what are you, a doctor?" And he goes, "This guy's fake. I let him appear in my trousers on a night." He is proper raggo. That's what I like about Dillian Whyte. He is proper raggo. And I'll say one thing: the sport of boxing is going to miss him when he goes, because do you know one thing I'll say about Dillian Whyte is he just says it as it is.
Yeah. Wow. All the best luck. I mean, I'm curious.
He glassed me.
I'm keen to see who he faces next.
If it happens, Whyte versus Bakole, who wins?
I don't know. I mean, the Whyte that I'm going by is the last fight against Fury. Has he fought since then? And that wasn't a good performance. That was a bit of a stinker.
Franklin.
Oh yes, it was. Sorry, yeah. And again, that was a close decision. You know, that could have gone either way. You know, but he won that. But he's been chasing after. I think he's after the money fights now.
Yeah, 100%.
He's at that point in his career where he did have that world title fight finally, but it didn't come through. Another heavyweight fight I want to talk about is, what do you make of Fabio Wardley for the British title versus Frazier Clarke? That's been talked up a bit.
Do
you think?
I'm a bit stunned
Frazier
to see how
Clarke's
a
team
fighter,
wants it.
I'm a bit stunned to see how a fighter at the stage of Frazier Clarke is in right now gets a British title fight that quick, considering he's not won an English title or a Central area or he's not won any of these titles. I don't get why he gets a fight so quick in that career. I get that he's not the youngest of heavyweights, but I don't understand that. I mean, who's he beating to warrant a British title fight?
Who'd you put in with the...
Well, you'd put in a David Adelaide or Solomon Dakers or any one of those fighters that's in and around 10.
David Adelaide seems, he seems very angry at that. So
yeah, I'm not being funny. Well, I'm not being funny or anything, but who these guys beating to warrant a British title fight? And I just think, right, that I think Fabio Wardley is going to beat all these guys. He's had, 15, 16 fights now. He's fought in European opposition. He's fought British level fighters.
All knockouts, barring one, I think, yeah.
Beating Eric Molina, beating Nathan Gorman. And he's not far off a European title. But anyway, that's just... does it excite me? No, not really. Because I just think I'm not dissing Frazier Clarke. The guy's a bronze Olympic medalist and, he's got good amateur background. But
you're saying there's a queue here.
Yeah, there is a bit of a queue. Fight 3-4 more times, and then we can look at a British title fight. But you see when they bumped into each other, Eddie Hearn goes, "I can't believe you're having a warm-up fight for a British title fight." I don't get how that works, but is it a fight that I'm excited about? No, but it is a fight that probably will happen because it's a British title fight, prestigious belt, and. Well, I just expect Fabio Wardley to beat Frazier Clarke, and I expect him to beat David Adelaide and Sol Dakers right now. But then you've got Johnny Fisher as well, who's also around here as well.
Who's the one in Queensbury? Moses Atoma as
well.
Atoma,
but again,
he's very early. He's 18.
Early stages of his career. There's no need to rush him. But it's a fight that
the heavyweight division looking exciting at the moment.
Yeah. I would. It is.
There's a few names in there below that.
Yeah.
There's
big
a class.
baby Jared Anderson.
That's across the pond. There's a few other Americans there as well. He's got a big fight coming up as well, Jared Anderson.
As well. But let's just wait and see. But back to Whyte and Bakole, definitely a fight I would like to see, and let's just see if it happens. But I don't think it will happen. I think Dillian Whyte is going to, as you said, high risk, low reward. Floyd Mayweather's next exhibition fight got announced yesterday, and he'll be taking on John Gotti III on June 11th. For those of you who don't know much about John Gotti, he's a current MMA fighter, so it's just a case of making another.
Any relation to the John Gotti?
No,
relation. Sorry, I'm not familiar.
Anyway. Just a case of make a bit more money and put a bit of food on the table for Floyd Mayweather, right?
When he fought in England for the first time, there was hardly anyone there.
That's such a shame to see.
He could have picked a better
No, Ron. Forget that. He's retired, right? When he was in his prime or when he was an active professional boxer, why did nobody get him over to the UK at the time? Now he's a retired fighter.
He's not fought outside. When he was in his prime, did he fight ever outside the US? He didn't. No. So, but, you got to put the blame there, kind of thing. I'm sure there was opportunities, but he probably maximised on earning potential. He knew he would make more money in the MGM or the Las Vegas and all these kind of places. So,
but it's an exhibition fight against John Gotti III. As I said, a current MMA fighter. I don't think we can say much about this only in regards to that. It's just making more money for him. And these exhibition fights, people do buy into them.
What platform is that on? What is it? I don't know.
Not too sure.
Kingpin.
I don't know.
Misfits.
Listen, I'm not going to knock these platforms, all right?
No. I'm just thinking, is it on the
Fight TV? Might be a thriller. There's so many
platforms.
Yeah. Okay, this is going to be a tough question for you. If you're Floyd Mayweather, right, and you're taking these exhibition fights, what's the aim besides money?
I couldn't answer that question. Is it just to keep fit? Just to keep active? To keep in the public persona that I'm still involved in boxing? What is he now? 45, I think. 45.
But when you seen him on Saturday night at the Tank Garcia fight, he looked old.
He looked old.
He did look old.
He's a brand, isn't he? Main Team Mayweather.
He put on his Instagram today that his cap cost about £30,000.
I'm not surprised. So he's got to fund that somehow. Yeah. So I don't know. Hopefully, just that cap alone would have funded how many people were at his last fight. So it's a shame. I don't know how much he would have got paid for that. So, but yeah, good luck to him. He's enjoying it. He's keeping fit, and he's doing it at high reward, low risk.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? He's getting paid handsomely. Whenever say he's fighting in Dubai, Japan. I can't remember how much he got for that Japanese against that Japanese kickboxer. Something stupid per second.
$9 million for what? How many minutes of an arse whooping?
That was cruel. That was, but yeah, he's kind of.
You're kind of lost for words here, aren't you? I've never seen you.
I don't know what to make of it.
Oh,
you asked a question about what is his aim. There is no aim. He's just making money. There is no other thing other than that.
A fight also that got announced yesterday, Sonny Edwards' next world title defense against Andres Campos, undefeated fighter from Chile, June the 10th at the OVO Arena for the world flyweight title. We spoke a bit about Campos before the podcast, an undefeated fighter, 15 wins, 4 knockouts. So there is reason for Sonny Edwards to make sure that he is on his A game, and Sonny Edwards is a professional fighter, and he's dedicated his life to the sport. So I'm pretty sure he won't be looking at this as a takeover. He will want to put on a performance. It's his first fight since signing with Matchroom and Eddie Hearn. We spoke about the Jesse Bam Rodriguez fight. Bam Rodriguez has suffered a broken jaw in his last fight. So is this just a case of stay warm and put in a good performance, and then we can look to unify against Bam Rodriguez?
Potentially further down the year, down the line. I mean, he's just signed with Matchroom, so I guess Eddie was just like, look, take this fight. Undefeated prospect, obviously from Chile, so let's get this fight on.
South Americans are no pushovers, though.
Yep. I mean, they're tough. They're tough kind of fighters, so...
I don't know why I'm getting a sense of deja vu when Warrington fought Lara for the first time.
I mean, this guy hasn't got a ferocious kind of like knockout ratio.
Neither did Mauricio Lara at the time. And look what he did to Josh Warrington. So...
Well, I hope Sonny Edwards is not going to underestimate him.
When you're a fighter with nothing to lose, that's when you're most dangerous, in my opinion.
Well, this guy wants to make a name for himself, so, he wants to get another potential rematch here. So he's thinking, if I put in a performance and beat Sonny Edwards in England, they're going to call me back, and, they're going to want a second fight, and I can demand for more money. So, and this guy is undefeated for a reason, so... I haven't seen much of him, so have you seen any of his fights?
I watched a few clips today on YouTube. He seems like a very talented fighter, and again, like I said, these South Americans, they're no pushovers. They wear their heart on their sleeve. I do feel as if he will turn up to fight Sonny Edwards, and he will. You can't overlook a fighter, especially when he's undefeated as well, and when he knows that this potentially is one of the chances he's going to get in this sport. But however, Sonny Edwards, one of the most talented fighters in the country right now. He's been a good world champion so far, and he knows that one more win potentially takes him to that big fight against Jesse Bam Rodriguez, a big money fight, and maybe even over in America. And I'm hoping that Sonny Edwards does get that fight in America, and I'm hoping he does start to become a unified champion, such as the same as Joe Cordina, because it's a short career as well in boxing, and these fighters, well, time's not their best friend as well. But a good test. And I'm hoping for a good performance from Sonny Edwards. I don't want to just see the guy outboxing for 12 rounds. I want to see him make a statement. Make a statement, try and get rid of him inside the distance, and then say, you know what, Bam Bam Rodriguez,
let's go next.
Let's go next. That's a great fight. It's a brilliant fight to watch. It's a fight that fans want to see. One of Mexican's best versus, one of our best talents in the country right now. And it'd sell out anyway.
Well, let's hope that happens,
Yeah. Anything else you want to add?
I think we've discussed a lot today. It's been an eventful chat.
You've got to get home. It's a school night.
It is a school
all
night.
right, Ron, pleasure as always, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure's all ours, mate. Just send me the bill, and payday is upon us.
It is tomorrow. I'm waiting forward till midnight.
Sleepless night for me. But yeah, guys, that's all we've got time for today. For podcast 64. Again, just a few friendly reminders before we bring the podcast to an end. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell for further notifications. Check us out on all the social media platforms. Links are below in the description. Check out our sponsors, Spartans Law. And again, if you want the best legal representation and legal advice, their details in terms of their websites and their social medias are going to be below in the description. Thank you very much, guys, for watching podcast 64 of the Lights Out Boxing podcast.